Every time your phone vibrates, you surrender. Every time an insult reaches your ears and your heart rate spikes, you have lost. You are currently a puppet, dancing to the rhythm of a world that does not care for your sovereignty. You think that by being available, by being responsive, you are demonstrating importance. In reality, you are demonstrating your lack of value. You are bleeding authority through every unnecessary word and every reactive gesture. You are loud, you are predictable, and you are easily manipulated. You are a pawn in a game you haven't even realized you're playing. But today, the noise ends. Today, you stop being the man who reacts and start being the man who dictates. You are about to enter the tactical void, a space where Thomas Shelby resides, where silence is not an absence of sound, but a lethal concentration of power. We are moving beyond the surface-level tropes of Peaky Blinders and into the visceral architecture of power that makes a man untouchable. You will learn how to turn your silence into a weapon that cuts deeper than any blade forged in a Birmingham fire. What Thomas Shelby mastered in the smoky industrial hell of the early 20th century, Niccolò Machiavelli had already codified in the high courts of 16th century Italy. Power has a universal language, and it is spoken in the gaps between sentences. This is not a guide for the common man. This is a blueprint for the sovereign. If you are tired of being the nice guy who finishes last, if you are ready to stop being the loud victim and start being the silent predator, then you are in the right place. You are joining the syndicate. Like this transmission to signal your intent and subscribe to secure your place among the architects of the new order. Comment, "Silence is power," right now to claim your seat at the table. Your transformation from a reactive ghost to a calculated sovereign begins the moment you decide that your attention is a prize, not a commodity. The first law of the silent predator is simple yet profound. Silence is a screen. Let them project their fears onto it. To understand this, we must look at the legendary encounter between Thomas Shelby and Inspector Campbell in the hallowed, cold confines of a church. Imagine the scene. The air is thick with the scent of old wood, incense, and the looming threat of state-sanctioned violence. Campbell enters with the weight of the British Empire behind him. He is loud. His boots clatter against the stone floor. His voice is a jagged edge of threats, posturing, and moral superiority. He is the personification of noise. He expects a reaction. He expects Tommy to cower, to explain, to bargain, or to show anger. But Tommy Shelby is not there. His body is present, sitting in the pew, lighting a cigarette with a steady hand, but his spirit is in the tactical void. He does not meet Campbell's volume. He does not defend his character. He does not even acknowledge the validity of the threats. He simply sits, he smokes, and he stares. His silence becomes a physical weight in the room. In that moment, Tommy is practicing what Machiavelli described in the delicate balance between the fox and the lion. In The Prince, Machiavelli teaches that a ruler must be a fox to recognize the traps set by his enemies. Campbell's noise is a trap. It is designed to lure Tommy into a frame where he is the criminal and Campbell is the judge. By refusing to speak, Tommy refuses to enter the trap. He forces Campbell to keep talking, to keep revealing his insecurities, and to eventually show his hand. The psychology here is devastatingly effective. When you remain silent in the face of aggression, you create an information vacuum. Human nature abhors a vacuum. When someone attacks you and you don't respond, they begin to wonder why. Are you unimpressed? Do you know something they don't? Is their threat actually meaningless? Their mind begins to race, filling your silence with their own worst-case scenarios. They project their fears onto the screen you have provided. By the time Tommy finally speaks, he has already won the psychological war. He hasn't moved an inch, yet Campbell is the one who is rattled, the one whose confidence has been eroded by the sheer gravity of Tommy's stillness. Compare this to the status of the common man. The common man is terrified of being misunderstood. If someone insults him, he immediately launches into a frantic defense. If a boss questions his work, he offers a mountain of excuses. If a woman ignores his text, he sends 3 more to clarify his position. Every time he does this, he is signaling submission. He is saying, "Your opinion of me is more important than my opinion of myself." He is handing over the keys to his emotional state to anyone with a loud enough voice or a sharp enough tongue. He is a slave to the noise of social validation. The man of power, the Shelby, knows that an explanation is a sign of weakness. He knows that his silence is his sovereignty. He understands that in the social zadres, the person who speaks less holds the most leverage. To apply this in your modern life, whether in the boardroom, the streets, or your personal relationships, you must master the 5-second rule of the void. Maria. The next time someone tries to bait you, the next time an associate tries to push you into a corner, or someone lobs an insult disguised as a joke, do not speak. Do not flinch. Count to 5 in your head while maintaining a calm, piercing eye contact. Do not look away. Do not look down. Just look through them. Watch what happens. You will see their eyes dart. You will see them start to fidget. They might try to laugh it off or say, "I was just joking." In that 5-second gap, you have re-established the hierarchy. You have shown that you are not a puppet. You have demonstrated that you are the fox who sees the trap and the lion who is not afraid of the noise. This is how you begin to build your architecture of power. You stop leaking energy. You stop being available for every petty conflict. You become a ghost in their machine, a figure whose thoughts are unknown and whose actions are unpredictable. Your silence is the wall upon which their ego will break. This is the tactical void. This is the first step toward becoming a sovereign. In a world of screaming children, the man who says nothing is the only adult in the room. You are no longer part of the masses. You are the architect of the silence that will eventually consume them. Practice the stare. Master the pause. Own the void. Information is the only currency that never devalues, and in the high-stakes theater of the social zadres, he who speaks first is the one who hands over his wallet. We move now into the second pillar of your transformation, information hegemony. The law is absolute. He who speaks first loses the map. When you open your mouth to fill a silence, you are not being social. You are being a leaker. You are giving away your intentions, your insecurities, and your boundaries for the low price of momentary comfort. Thomas Shelby knows that every word is a bullet, and you don't fire until you have a clear shot. Consider the volatile, high-tension meeting between Thomas Shelby and the chaotic force of nature that is Alfie Solomons in the dark, salt-crusted depths of the Camden Town distillery. The air is thick with the smell of fermenting grain and the constant rhythmic thrum of industrial machinery. A perfect metaphor for the grinding gears of power. Alfie is a master of noise. He rants, he uses colorful metaphors, he threats, and he creates a whirlwind of linguistic chaos designed to disorient his opponent. He talks in circles, testing Tommy's patience, trying to find a crack in the armor, trying to provoke a reaction that will reveal what Tommy actually wants from the rum business. But watch Tommy. He is a statue of cold intent. He sits in the shadows, his face illuminated only by the occasional glow of his cigarette. He allows Alfie's words to wash over him like useless waves against a cliff. He doesn't interrupt. He doesn't correct Alfie's exaggerations. He doesn't even nod to show he is following the logic. He waits. This is not passive waiting. This is predatory observation. Tommy is absorbing every micro-expression on Alfie's face, every inflection in his voice that betrays his actual desperation for a partnership. By remaining silent, Tommy forces Alfie to keep performing, and every minute Alfie performs, he reveals more of his hand. Tommy is led into the inner map of Alfie's business without ever having to trade a single piece of his own information. This is the embodiment of Machiavellian prudence in listening. In the corridors of power described in The Prince, Machiavelli argued that a ruler must be a great asker and a patient hearer. He warned that when people feel too comfortable speaking to a leader, they begin to lie or sugarcoat the truth. However, if a leader maintains a stoic, silent gravity, people become desperate to fill the void with the truth, often leaking secrets just to see a reaction. Machiavelli knew that a prince who speaks too much becomes predictable, and a predictable prince is a dead prince. By holding back his speech, Tommy remains an enigma, a puzzle that Alfie cannot solve, which naturally places Tommy in the position of the sovereign. The psychology here is a masterclass in information hegemony. Most people talk because they are uncomfortable with the social debt of silence. They feel that if they don't contribute, they are being rude or awkward. This is the common man's trap. The man of power knows that the discomfort of others is his greatest tool. When you stay silent, you are essentially telling the other person, "I am not impressed by your noise. Try harder." This forces them into a state of psychological submission where they begin to offer concessions, reveal secrets, or lower their price just to break the tension you have created. In your modern world, this applies to every negotiation, every job interview, and every high-stakes social interaction. The common man goes into a meeting and tries to prove how smart he is by talking constantly. He explains his resume, he explains his vision, and he explains why he is the best fit. In doing so, he reveals his desperation. He has lost the map. You, the architect of power, will do the opposite. You will ask one sharp, open-ended question. Something like, "What is the one thing your current strategy is failing to address?" And then you will go dark. You will lean back, maintain eye contact, and let the silence sit in the air like a heavy fog. Do not look at your phone. Do not fidget with your pen. Do not offer a nod of encouragement. Let them sweat. In their attempt to fill that silence, they will tell you exactly what they are afraid of, what their budget actually is, and where their weaknesses lie. They will hand you the map of their mind, and once you have the map, you can decide exactly where to strike. Information is hegemony, and silence is the vacuum that draws it out of your enemies and into your hands. You are not there to participate in a conversation. You are there to conduct an interrogation where the other person doesn't even realize they are the suspect. Once you have mastered the vacuum of silence, you must learn the architecture of the wall. This leads us to the third pillar, strategic isolation. The law is one that cuts against every modern networking impulse you have been taught. Accessibility breeds contempt. Distance breeds awe. We live in an age of hyperconnectivity where being reachable is considered a virtue. This is a lie designed to keep you at the level of the masses. If anyone can reach you at any time, you have zero value. You are a commodity, like air or tap water. Thomas Shelby is not a commodity. He is a rare element, and his presence is a privilege that must be earned through trial and loyalty. Look at the way Thomas Shelby structures his life as the empire grows. He moves from the crowded, chaotic streets of Small Heath to a sprawling, isolated mansion. This isn't just about luxury, it's about strategic distance. Even within his own family, there are layers of defense. To see Tommy, even his brothers often have to go through a gatekeeper, a secretary, or wait until he emerges from his private office. He is not one of the boys at the garrison anymore. When he does appear, it is an event. It has weight. Because he is rarely seen and even more rarely available for casual chatter, every second he grants someone is imbued with a sense of extreme importance. His isolation serves a dual purpose. First, it protects his mental clarity from the noise of other people's petty dramas. Second, it creates a mythos around him. In the absence of constant contact, people begin to tell stories. They wonder what he is planning. They speculate on his moves. They build him up in their minds into something larger than life. This is the awe that distance breeds. Tommy is not just a man. He is the man in the high office, the ghost of Birmingham. By being physically and digitally isolated, he forces the world to come to him on his terms. He never chases, he attracts. Machiavelli was a staunch advocate for this kind of calculated distance. He warned in The Prince that a ruler must avoid the flatterers at all costs. He argued that if a leader is too approachable, the common touch will eventually lead to a loss of respect. If the people see you eat, sleep, and struggle with the same trivialities they do, the illusion of your superiority vanishes. Machiavelli understood that authority is 90% perception. If you appear to be above the fray, the masses will treat you as if you are. Isolation is the physical manifestation of your sovereignty. It is the boundary that tells the world, "My time is more valuable than your needs." The common man is a slave to his notifications. He responds to every DM within seconds because he is afraid of missing out or being seen as rude. He says yes to every coffee invite, every happy hour, and every quick call. He thinks this makes him well-liked. In reality, it makes him a servant to other people's agendas. He is always on, which means he is never truly powerful. He is exhausted, fragmented, and utterly predictable. People don't respect his time because he doesn't respect it himself. He is a tool that anyone can pick up and use whenever they feel like it. To apply strategic isolation today, you must become a ghost in your own life. You must stop being the man who is always available. Start by implementing dark hours, blocks of time where your phone is off, your door is shut, and no one, not even your closest associates, can reach you. When you do respond to messages, do it on your schedule, not theirs. If someone asks for a quick chat, tell them you are occupied and ask them to send a detailed agenda. This immediately shifts the power dynamic. It forces them to justify why they deserve your attention. In your social circles, stop being the life of the party. Start declining more invitations than you accept. When you do show up, be the last to arrive and the first to leave. Make your presence a limited time offer. This creates a psychological scarcity that drives your value through the roof. People will stop taking you for granted and start valuing the rare moments they have with you. You are building a fortress of distance that protects your focus and magnifies your authority. You are no longer a participant in the noise of the world. You are the sovereign who observes it from the heights of your own isolation. Remember, the king does not walk the streets to ask for directions. He sits on the throne and waits for the world to bring him the news. Own your distance, build your wall, become the enigma, Gemini said. To achieve the fourth pillar of your sovereign ascent, you must understand that your emotions are not your truth. They are your greatest vulnerabilities. In the high-stakes architecture of power, an emotional response is not a sign of authenticity. It is a strategic surrender. Every time you lose your temper, every time you show fear, and every time you allow excitement to cloud your judgment, you are handing your opponent a map to your destruction. Thomas Shelby does not lack emotions, but he possesses something far more lethal: the absolute mastery over his internal state. He treats his own feelings as cold data points, never allowing the fire in his chest to reach the ice in his eyes. Consider the atmosphere in Tommy's office when Luca Changretta, the sophisticated and vengeful leader of the Sicilian Black Hand, makes his presence known. The room is heavy with the scent of expensive cigars and the invisible weight of a death sentence. Luca is not a street thug. He is a master of psychological warfare. He systematically places the Black Hand cards on Tommy's desk, one for each member of the Shelby family he intends to slaughter. This is a moment of pure, unadulterated terror. Any other man would have reached for his gun, his hands trembling with rage or fear. Any other man would have shouted, threatened, or pleaded. But look at Thomas Shelby. He sits perfectly still. His breathing is slow, rhythmic, and intentional. He does not flinch as Luca describes the gruesome details of the coming vendetta. He looks at the cards not as a promise of death, but as a business proposition that requires a calculated response. He continues to smoke, his gaze fixed on Luca with a terrifying neutrality. By refusing to show an emotional reaction, Tommy effectively disarms Luca's primary weapon. Luca expects to see a man unraveling. Instead, he sees a void. This internal stillness is what allowed Tommy to survive the trenches of the Great War, and it is what allows him to dominate the boardrooms of Birmingham. He understands that the moment he reacts emotionally, he becomes predictable, and the moment he is predictable, he is defeated. This is the living embodiment of the Machiavellian concept of virtù versus fortuna. In The Prince, Machiavelli explains that fortuna is like a torrential river, violent, unpredictable, and capable of destroying everything in its path. Most men are swept away by the winds of fortune, their lives dictated by external circumstances and their own impulsive reactions. However, the man of virtù builds dams and dikes. He prepares himself so that when the storm comes, he remains unshaken. Tommy's lack of reaction is his dam. He has cultivated an internal state that is so fortified that even the threat of total annihilation cannot breach it. Machiavelli argued that a prince must be able to change his nature to suit the times, but the core of his power must always remain stable. To be unfazed is to be the master of Fortuna, rather than her victim. The psychology here is a stark contrast to the common man of the 21st century. The common man is a slave to his feelings. He lives in a state of perpetual reactivity. If he receives a disrespectful comment on social media, his day is ruined. If he encounters a setback at work, he falls into a spiral of self-doubt. He believes that expressing his emotions is a form of strength, when in reality it is a form of leakage. He is constantly signaling his internal state to the world, making it incredibly easy for others to manipulate, provoke, and control him. He is a puppet whose strings are pulled by anyone who knows how to trigger his anger or his ego. To become the man of power, you must adopt the art of the unfazed. You must begin to treat your emotions as separate from your identity. When you receive bad news or encounter a direct provocation, your first instinct will be to react. You must kill that instinct. Practice the Shelby stare. This is not about looking tough. It is about looking empty. When someone tries to insult you, look at them with the same detached curiosity you would use to examine a strange insect. Do not defend yourself. Do not explain. Do not counterattack. Simply observe the data of the situation. Train your brain to see crisis as a puzzle, not a tragedy. If your business fails, if your partner leaves you, or if you are threatened, ask yourself, what is the strategic requirement of this moment? The moment you shift from, how do I feel about this, to, how do I solve this, you have reclaimed your sovereignty. You become a man who cannot be baited. You become a man who can walk through fire without the smell of smoke on his clothes. In the social Zadrez, the unfazed man is the only one who can see the whole board, while everyone else is blinded by the dust of their own emotions. Master your pulse, and you will master the world. As you ascend the ladder of sovereignty, you will encounter the most dangerous distraction of all, the opinions and petty dramas of the masses. To achieve ultimate authority, you must master the fifth pillar, calculated coldness. The law is absolute. Small minds discuss people. Great minds discuss the conquest. Most men spend their lives drowning in the noise of social morality, gossip, and the need for approval. They are paralyzed by the fear of being seen as cold or ruthless. Thomas Shelby, however, understands that to build an empire, one must be willing to become the villain in someone else's story. He does not seek to be loved. He seeks to be sovereign. Look at the way Tommy Shelby handles the intense social pressure of the labor strikes and the union unrest in the early seasons of Peaky Blinders. While the world around him is screaming for justice, equality, and fairness, Tommy remains strategically deaf to the noise. He is not interested in the moral theater of the streets. He sees the strikes not as a cause to join, but as a variable to be manipulated for the expansion of Shelby Cumberland. He is willing to ignore the pleas of the working class, his own people, if it means securing a deal with the government or the police. To the common observer, this looks like heartless betrayal. To the architect of power, it is strategic clarity. Tommy understands that the crowd is a beast that is easily swayed by emotion and rhetoric. If he allows himself to be moved by their justice, he becomes a servant to their whims. By maintaining a calculated coldness, he stays focused on the long-term objective, the legacy of the Shelby name. He is able to make decisions that are immoral by conventional standards, but essential by the standards of the conquest. He knows that once the empire is built, no one will remember the noise of the dissenters. They will only see the monument of his success. His coldness is the insulation that keeps his vision from being distorted by the heat of the moment. This is the pure application of the most famous Machiavellian principle. The end justifies the means. In The Prince, Machiavelli argues that a ruler who tries to be good in all circumstances will inevitably be destroyed by those who are not good. He teaches that the preservation of the state, or in your case, the preservation of your sovereign goals, is the highest morality. If achieving your conquest requires you to ignore social conventions, break rules of politeness, or distance yourself from those who are no longer useful, then you must do it without hesitation. Machiavelli knew that the masses are always impressed by appearances and by the outcome of an action. If you win, the means you used will always be judged honorable. Coldness is the prerequisite for victory because it allows you to see the means as purely mechanical steps toward an end. The common man is terrified of being perceived as mean or cold. He wastes hours every day engaged in shadow boxing, arguing with people who don't matter, worrying about gossip at the office, and trying to manage everyone's perception of his character. He is obsessed with being a good person in the eyes of people who are beneath him. This obsession with social approval is a leash. It keeps him small, distracted, and predictable. He discusses people because he lacks the vision to discuss the conquest. He is so busy trying to fit in that he forgets he was born to stand out. To apply calculated coldness in your modern life, you must perform a strategic audit of your environment. You must identify the noise that is currently draining your energy. This includes gossip, political debates that you cannot influence, and relationships that provide emotional comfort but no strategic value. You must learn to say no without providing an explanation. You must learn to walk away from drama without looking back. If a conversation does not contribute to your wealth, your power, or your mission, it is strategically irrelevant. Ignore it. Treat your social interactions like a surgeon treats an operation. Be precise, be effective, and when the job is done, move on. Do not stay to chat with the patient's family if it serves no purpose. This is not about being cruel. It is about being focused. When people realize that you cannot be distracted by their petty dramas, they will stop bringing them to you. You will find that your circle gets smaller, but the quality of your focus gets sharper. You are no building a life based on the consensus of the masses. You are building a kingdom based on the clarity of your own intent. The world will call you cold. Let them. The view from the top is much clearer when you aren't looking through the fog of other people's opinions. Stay cold. Stay focused. Stay sovereign. Observe Thomas Shelby with surgical precision as he enters the hallowed, decaying corridors of the House of Commons. The environment is saturated with the smell of old paper, polished oak, and the rank hypocrisy of men who believe their words actually change the world. Tommy walks through those halls not as a participant, but as a strategic interloper. He is a stranger to the theatrical rules of parliamentary politics. While other politicians lose themselves in heated debates, rhetorical insults, and the desperate search for media attention, Tommy moves with a silent, heavy gravity. He ignores the petty bickering and the alliances of convenience that dominate the chamber. He is not there to be a member, he is there to be a master. His presence is felt precisely because he refuses to participate in the democratic noise. He is the shadow that makes the stage lights look irrelevant. The internal psychology of Tommy in this phase of his journey is that of a man who has transcended the need for social validation. He understands that the House of Commons is just another chessboard, albeit with more pretentious pieces. By maintaining his mask of absolute silence, he forces his political adversaries to either underestimate him or fear him excessively. He does not reveal his intentions, he does not share his alliances, and above all, he does not allow the theater of politics to affect his internal rhythm. He uses his sovereign mask to filter what is useful and discard what is merely entertainment for the masses. He knows that in a room full of talkers, the man who listens is the only one gathering ammunition. This is the visceral application of Machiavelli's wisdom regarding the perception of authority. In the 18th chapter of The Prince, Machiavelli notes that it is not necessary for a ruler to possess all good qualities, but it is absolutely indispensable that he should appear to possess them. Silence is the supreme tool for curating this perception. When you speak little, people attribute to you an intelligence and a depth that you may or may not have, but the doubt always works in your favor. Machiavelli taught that distance and mystery are the parents of veneration. If you are too transparent, you become common. If you hide behind a mask of calculated silence, you become an icon. Sovereignty requires you to be a master of appearance, meticulously controlling what the world sees, and more importantly, what the world will never know about you. You must be a fox to discern the traps of those who try to unmask you, and a lion to terrify those who dare to try. The common man fails miserably at this point because he has a desperate, almost pathological desire to belong and to be understood. He enters a room and immediately tries to find his place through small talk, ice-breaking jokes, or strong opinions just to seem relevant. He tries to fit in, and in doing so, he dissolves his authority in the acid of conformity. He is predictable because his reactions are dictated by the social environment. The common man is a piece that the board moves. The man of power is the hand that moves the board from the outside. He thinks that by being one of the guys, he is building a network. In reality, He is building his own cage. He is loud, he is accessible, and therefore, he is worthless. To apply the sovereign mask in your current reality, especially in high-pressure social or professional environments, you must adopt the posture of the invisible observer. In meetings, social events, or even high-stakes dinners, do not be the center of attention. Do not try to be the life of the party. Move slowly. Observe more than you speak. When asked a question, respond with the minimum number of words necessary, and then return the silence. Let others feel compelled to fill the void. You will find that naturally, people will begin to gravitate toward your silent gravity. You are not trying to be accepted. You are observing whether they are worthy of your attention. Your mask is not a lie. It is the border that protects your internal empire. Learn to be physically present but strategically absent. Become the enigma that everyone tries to solve, but no one can decipher. When you are the one who does not seek approval, you become the one who grants it. That is the ultimate sovereign position. We have reached the end of this transmission, but your reign is only just beginning. This is the synthesis of power. Power is not loud, it is not desperate, and it does not seek approval. Power is silent. It is the coldness of Thomas Shelby in the face of death, and the clarity of Machiavelli in the face of history. You have understood now that silence is not a vacuum, but a weapon of mass destruction against those who depend on noise to feel alive. Each pillar we have built here, the tactical void, information hegemony, strategic isolation, the art of the unfazed, calculated coldness, and the sovereign mask, forms the architecture of a man who is truly untouchable. Thomas Shelby and Niccolò Machiavelli knew a truth that the masses ignore. The loudest man in the room is always the weakest. Noise is the shield of the insecure. Silence is the throne of the sovereigns. By mastering these techniques, you stop being a passenger in life and start being its architect. You do not react to the world. You force the world to react to your stillness. Your journey from now on will not be about what you conquer externally, but about the strength of your internal vacuum. The less you need to speak to prove your worth, the more worth you will have. You are no longer a victim of the social Zadrez. You are the player who has already seen the checkmate 10 moves ahead. Your final challenge begins the moment this transmission ends. I challenge you to a 24-hour tactical fast. For the next 24 hours, you will not complain about anything. You will not explain your actions to anyone, and you will not react to any provocation, whether digital or physical. If someone insults you, look them in the eyes and say nothing. If something goes wrong, keep your expression neutral and solve the problem in silence. Observe how your energy accumulates when you stop wasting it on useless words. Observe how the respect of others increases when they cannot predict your next reaction. This is the baptism of fire. This is the moment you stop being a nice guy and start being a man of power. The social Zadrez is yours to win, but only if you have the courage to be the master of silence in a world of screams. Do not seek to be loved. Seek to be respected. Do not seek to be heard. Seek to be felt. The path of the Shelby is solitary. It is cold, but it is the only path that leads to absolute sovereignty. Stay cold. Stay focused. Stay silent. The transmission is over. Your empire begins now.